Hey guys, welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm your host Kelly Pally, and you're watching the fourth part to our Harry Potter fan theories video series. That's a mouthful. So we've covered a ton of amazing, questionable, and sometimes quite comical theories over the past 3 videos, and there's still a ton more to explore. We'll be focusing a little bit more on theories from Fantastic Beasts and where to find them in this video, but don't worry, we'll also be touching on some from the Harry Potter series too, because, you know, that is the title of this video, so yeah. But spoilers abound, so if you haven't seen the Fantastic Beasts film yet, you've been warned. Alright, let's get into it. And number 10 is the Centaurs. Let's start off this list with a pretty basic theory. The Centaurs knew Harry's fate, and that's a fairly plausible thing to believe. So the main speculation is that the Centaurs from the Forbidden Forest knew that Harry and Voldemort would face off in the forest. So back in the first book, when Firenze saves Harry and they first meet, Bane exclaims to him, "What have you been telling him? Remember, Firenze, we are sworn not to set ourselves against the heavens. Have we not read what is to come in the movements of the planets?" And I mean, they're pretty good at divination, so I think I believe this one, guys. What do you think? And at number 9 is when 13 dine together. So in the third book, there's a moment where 12 people are all seated around a table having dinner, including Albus Dumbledore. Professor Trelawney joins them, and of course Dumbledore rises, about to offer a chair. This is when she freaks out and says, "When 13 people dine together, the first to rise will die." And now I know what you're thinking, there's only 12 there at the table. Except fans of this theory have pointed out that Scabbers was probably in Ron's pocket, making it 13. This rule of thumb also seems to be the case for Lupin and Sirius's deaths too. Lupin is the first to rise from the table at Moody's wake, and Sirius is the first to rise after a meal in Grimmauld Place. Coincidence? Perhaps. And at number 8 is Snape's first words to Harry. So we mentioned this one in our Severus Snape Surprising Facts video, but we really wanted to share it in this one with you guys. So in the first book, Snape's first words to Harry in potions class are, "What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Now fans have broken down the etymology of these ingredients and translated it into a sentence that is, "I bitterly regret Lily's death." Now this is operating on the idea that there's a Victorian flower language connecting Snape and Lily Potter, which was partially confirmed in a Pottermore article acknowledging the symbolic relationship between the two. Another user on Reddit pointed out that there's a more accurate translation of the saying, which is, "On Lily's grave I promise to protect you." Now while the symbolism is there for both of those statements, I think it's likely that it was probably a choice of Rowling's, but perhaps not a conscious one of Snape's part in the world of the story. Just saying. Still cool though. And at number 7 is Remus and Sirius were secret lovers. So this one is pretty ridiculous, almost as ridiculous as the Sirius and Lily Potter secret lover theory, which has even less compelling evidence than this one, which is why it does not make it on any of our lists. The evidence is pretty much all from the letter Lily wrote Sirius, but wildly misinterpreted. Anyway, why do people think Remus and Sirius were bone buddies? Well, there's been some intense text reading on this one, analyzing lines in the book such as this one from Order of the Phoenix. And I quote, "Lupin's eyes were fixed on Sirius." And then another one, which I also quote, "Looking away from Sirius at last." Or, you know, it could just be that they were interacting like regular people. And at number 6 is the theory that the rise of Grindelwald and Voldemort's origin story may overlap. So here we have a theory from the Leaky Cauldron. This one comes from Riddle's timeline being close to the setting of the first Fantastic Beasts film, 1926. Merope Gaunt would be 8 months pregnant, and since Credence Barebones is set to make an appearance in the next Fantastic Beasts film, there's a speculation that he would end up at an orphanage, perhaps the same one as young Riddle's. J.K. Rowling has stated that the Fantastic Beasts series will end in 1945, with fans assuming it will culminate with Grindelwald's defeat in that same year, which also happens to be the year that Tom graduated from Hogwarts. Up next at number 5 is Dumbledore sent Newt Scamander to find and capture Grindelwald. So this theory is from Jackson Bird of the Harry Potter Alliance, and came to light after the first Fantastic Beasts film came out. It's that Dumbledore didn't just send Newt out to complete his textbook, but he sent him out on a mission to defeat Grindelwald, all because Grindelwald's obsession with the Obscurus and Newt's previous experience with Obscurus. And since the recent Pottermore announcements that Jude Law's Dumbledore and Newt will be working together to stop Grindelwald, that theory is even more plausible than ever. I don't know, what do you guys think? Was Newt's clash with Grindelwald just a coincidence in the first film? Or was Dumbledore orchestrating it? And at number 4 is Ariana Dumbledore was an Obscurial. I'm actually surprised we haven't talked about this theory yet. So an Obscurus is an unstable, uncontrollable manifestation of emotion that occurs in a witch or wizard when they suppress their magic, because magic just explodes out of them essentially. So remember how Ariana Dumbledore suffered from spontaneous explosions of magic after being beaten by those Muggle children, and then accidentally killed her mother during one of her fits? Well, many fans have pointed out that it sounds like she was an Obscurial, and Jackson Bird of the Harry Potter Alliance also also pointed out that there's a little Easter egg in the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them textbook. The title page credits a publishing company called Obscurus Books. And connecting that with our previous points, Ariana being obscurial would be the reason why Grindelwald was so fascinated by them, having witnessed one firsthand. And at number 3 is Snape is transgendered. There's a pretty active fandom for this theory, and of course it's straight from Tumblr. So its supporters base the theory on in-depth readings of text from the books that hint to Snape having an underlying feminine identity, with Snape's affinity to potions being interpreted as an attempt to magically transition. There's even a Trans Snape Week that was created back in 2015 that was birthed from this theory. So while we won't get into the fine details here, give it a Google. It may not have the most convincing evidence, but it's definitely an interesting read, and slightly more backed up in that Snape was a vampire theory, just saying. And at number 2 is the first Dementor was born from an Obscurus. Even with this Obscurus theme, let's talk about this theory that comes from Nerdist, and was posted by Michael Walsh last year. So an Obscurus is a flowing black creature, created from fear, self-hatred, anger, sadness, and a lack of hope. It feeds off of the Obscurial, their host, until they die. So where does that sound familiar? So a little bit of history on Dementors here for you guys. They were found at Azkaban, an island previously used by a dark wizard to lure muggles and torture them. It was then turned into a prison in 1718, and the Dementors were used as guards. The theory is that, similar to how Newt would have contained it, this dark wizard would have done something a little bit different and combined the Obscurial and the Obscurus, eventually making it into the Dementors that we've seen in the Potter series. And it's kinda darker considering it would have come from wizards and witches themselves. And finally, in at number 1 is Will We Die Just a Little? So remember that line that Grindelwald says to Newt after he's been captured in the Fantastic Beasts film? Will we die just a little? Well, while some fans have taken the line literally, as him comparing credence to the magical community concerning keeping magic concealed from muggles, others think it actually hits to something greater. That Grindelwald is referencing Horcruxes, to die just a little, and make a Horcrux. This is where things get a bit crazy. Does this imply that Credence is a Horcrux, since he will be returning in the next film despite seeming to die? Does our overlapping theory that we mentioned previously play into this theory, introducing the idea of Horcruxes to the Dark Lord when he's real young? I don't know. What do you guys think? There we have it, friends. So many theories. What do you guys think? Give us your 2 cents in those comments below. And as always, if you dug this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick around. We've got some other Potterverse vids on our channel and a whole lot of other fun things too. But for now, I'm Kelly Pally for Top 10 Nerd, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.